It's 5:30, so I'm going to go ahead and call the study session to order. First up, we have public comment. It's time for public comment. There is no public, so we will move on down to a roundtable discussion amongst council members. Council, does anybody have anything you'd like to discuss today or bring up? Peter, anything? Teresa? Tracy or Rachel? No? Well,
Good, because we have a lot to talk about.
I know,
on
I
two
was like,
items,
I
so
would
this
say
is
we've
really
got
good. I was nervous for a second.
some in-depth stuff here anyway, so we will go ahead and move on down to the discussion regarding city meeting recordings.
All right, real quick, as you guys may recall, Parker used to sit in the corner over there and record the meetings. They would be recorded onto an SD card. And then we would transfer that to a terabyte hard drive that we would just keep at our desk. And occasionally, someone would come in and look at it. I think, Peter, you came in one time. Okay, Peter didn't come in. We're trying to think who came in, and we thought it was you before you were on council. Did Rachel, you ever come in?
Well, yeah, I came in for a few recordings.
Yes, right, okay. We apologize. It was Rachel that came in.
The crazy one over here.
I just make my own recordings.
Yeah, you did do that too. I remember those days. So what we've done is with Parker moving up here to the DS with us and Ryan coming in and having a little bit of a background in AV, we are flirting with the idea of doing live recordings. So we plugged in, or Ryan did some hardwiring here, and we have the camera wired directly into our mics. So if you are going to speak this evening, please make sure the green light is on and you are speaking towards the microphone. So even if you wanted to get into a conversation with like Rachel, you would like just tilt your head. So it goes through. We've done a few test runs just as staff. The quality is so-so. When it's in the back, the quality is really bad. Everyone's face just looks like a pinhead and it's fuzzy. Our best bet so far has been at the corner here. When it's in the back, yeah, I called you multiple things that you can bring up at my next review. So just make it, write it down on a piece of note or piece of paper and bring it back for my review. I will be held accountable at that time. So we're not live tonight. We are recording live, but it's to a private account still. We will send the link out to council, have you look at it, and you guys can decide if you like the direction we're going, if you want us to do something different. I threw up there on the TV screens, do you still want to record your meetings? That is, just a question that's up there. It does take effort on staff's time. We're not afraid of putting that effort in, but I want to make sure we're putting out a product that council's happy with, or okay with, or is acceptable, for recording meetings. Where are we going to stream to? YouTube.
Where are we going to stream to?
Hey, good job. Way to catch yourself in this. Maybe Parker gave you a hint, but yeah, YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, the city is a YouTube channel. It's where we post most of our stuff.
Tracy, you had brought up something about recording, wasn't it like through NPR or something?
has a whole
Yeah.
series that they're doing. I don't know if you've ever looked into that or not. You look blank, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
say.
I no idea what you're talking about.
This was an email from, I
Yeah.
think, last year? or
Last
earlier
year,
this
I had sent and shared how NPR during COVID had initiated this program, and anybody could be in it, because I think Kalamazoo is in it, LBN, and different city councils, and it was for local governments to have a place where they could store their council meetings and have them accessible. So I don't know if that is any easier to do or not. But you can go to NPR, and it's right there on their main page.
All right, we can look at that.
I can also find my email.
So for the YouTube, the way we have it set up, this is very easy. We hit record and it just goes there and it's recorded and stored there. So there's not much staff effort on that part. My bigger concern is we don't have multiple cameras in here. we don't have multiple people to work cameras, to do fades, transitions, space, placeholders, So what you're gonna see, in my opinion, is a very basic kind of setup. Parker will look at that NPR. If you sent it last year, it's still in my inbox.
I found it.
Oh, can you resend it?
Yeah.
Send it to Parker?
Yeah, it's just a podcast idea. It's out there. Anybody who does podcasts, you can pull up these and listen all day long to local city council podcasts.
Love those kind of people. I am not one of them, so.
I really like the idea of having it live streamed. So people that don't want to be here in person still have access to the meetings and can see what is actually going on rather than hearing things.
Sure.
So if they're up and then remain there, anyone can just go click on them and watch the meetings or look back to see what was said.
And it's good if there's ever any confusion about what was said, that somebody can go in and say, because sometimes things can get twisted or misheard. Be able to go back and actually listen to what was really said. I think in 2021, I think it's a no-brainer to have our meetings recorded and streamed.
Peter, do you have any thoughts?
Just, it could be easily also to multicast to Facebook and YouTube. That's all just using stream links. It's not too terribly difficult to add one more or the other, Rumble or wherever we want, but we should probably choose one that's going to be our archived and have a way to archive it for, if we're going to maintain it as a public record, just for our public record keeping. But I'm fine with the recording of the meetings, and a single camera to me, right now, that's fine. I just looked at the county's emergency meeting they had on Friday. They put it on their YouTube channel. So if you wanted to see what they were talking about, mask mandates in the schools, they had a meeting that was a 5.5-hour long meeting, and it's all up on YouTube. Although they did also on theirs link into any presentations that were being done so they could show the screen rather than who was actually speaking, but that would involve a little bit more technical and actually having a computer here to do that with. So I understand just doing one camera is fine for now, I think.
What do you think, Teresa?
Yeah, I think we should keep recording the meetings. I think that's important.
Rachel, do you have any thoughts?
I guess I thought we were doing this all along, but we've just been recording and then uploading later on, archiving it, not doing live. Every court case that I've been involved in through 57th District since the pandemic has been on YouTube. It's live, and so it makes sense that a council would do that as well. We're making decisions. The public should know about it as best, or the easiest way possible for the public to know about it.
And I just want to be clear, we're not allowing for interaction. I just want to make sure council's aware, this is just recording live and people can go see what was said or see as it's said. But like someone can't type a comment, we're not going to be replying to comments coming in through that.
On that question, are we just going to disable comments and live chat? Just because otherwise, as a city government, we have to actually maintain that as a public record and can't
We're going to have to talk about
go and remove comments and things like that from videos. It's-
Correct. Yeah, we cannot remove comments from
It's
our
a messy-
Facebook page. We can't remove comments from Instagram or any of our social media. If someone posts something, it has to stay up there. Council, you may not know this, but we do contract with a third party to archive all of our social media accounts, just because there's been cities that have gotten called to the carpet in court cases where they've deleted what they thought were unfavorable posts.
So my suggestion is in the description of our live streams to have our website, as well as if we have a generic email for public comments, if somebody wants to put in and just to say when your public comment has to be received by,
Yeah.
if we're going to allow email public comments, so just put a time limit to say it's got to be received by 5 PM of the day of the meeting in order for it to be in this meeting, just so that it's clear and concise. Nobody goes, well, I emailed you during the meeting, why didn't you
Yeah.
read it into the comment time? Well, it's not interactive, we should just make it clear in our description that it's not.
So we have a public participation plan. I'll look into our public participation plan and see if we address that or not. If not, we do need to address that.
Tracy, did you have anything beyond?
I mean, I guess I see two different things here. Are we I see that as two different things. I guess I'm more in favor of, yeah, these need to be recorded, so we can go back, you know, if you need to see what somebody says or what was said. The live streaming, I mean, I don't care either way, but, I mean, why do we want to live stream, I guess, and especially if we're gonna disable comments, that type thing, so I'm not sure, you know, just throwing it out there, why we want to live stream.
That's true.
So just, I have no, I mean, I should say that we've been, when did we started recording 2000, well, I want to say 8, was it? 17, 18. It was a while ago. And that was to a YouTube, yes, we were archiving? No, just here archiving and anybody who requested it. All right, so this girl. In looking at 57th District Court, it says that live streaming is available for all public hearings for the duration of the live event. Recordings are deleted at the conclusion of the live event. As an individual who actually sits in on these things, there's no reason why I would watch this because I hear everything that's going on during the actual hearings. So maybe friends, family, I have no idea why you would want that. I would say, if I'm to speak frankly, our reasons for starting to record meetings previously were because there was a question about transparency. And so we were wanting to cover every angle, every whatever. And I think the folks that were questioning the transparency never really actually used the technology available to see what was going on. So I'm still fine with it. I'm not a fan of the commenting or responding at least to it. If it has to remain up there and anybody can say anything they want, then whatever. That is basically how media is nowadays, so. But if it is just to go back and somebody who sat in a meeting or didn't sit in a meeting, was like, oh, I wonder what was said about, you know, the streetscape or whatever, so let me watch this. Versus reading minutes, because depending upon the minute taker, it can be very detailed or it can be very blasé and a summarization of what was said. So I like the idea of recording live. I don't know if it,
Do we need it live? I mean, I just asking the question of, and I don't know how much more difficult it is, but it's like recording is one thing and having it out there for people. But do we really need to live stream, especially if people can't? I mean, why are we live streaming if they can't interact? The live streaming is to give people access to the meeting.
It's,
Happening that can't be here. That's great.
At-
They should have.
at the same time, people sitting in the audience, how often do they react?
Yeah.
Or interact, I should say, not react. No, I feel like there's going to be a lot of interest in what's said and done, but maybe not so much interaction.
So we'll tell you guys why we want the live stream.
Well, it's a quicker accessibility thing. In this instance, what we're doing right now, we're just putting everything on a hard drive. It's all just kind of in bits and pieces, and then it's going through and, you know, it's filed in just like a generic file name. We rename it, we do whatever. On a YouTube live stream, we've started the live stream. It's got the meeting date is its title. It's going, it's right here. And so when we're done, we'll just finish recording. It'll live right there on YouTube. It's always there for either for staff to reference, for the public to reference, for council members to reference. It's all right there and easily accessible and just very, very quick to grab, other than having to grab the hard drive, plug it in, sift through these hundreds of different little clips that we've got of stuff, so.
Could we check with some of these other cities that are using that podcast or NPR? I just think that YouTube is the Wild West to me, and anybody can keep commenting for years and years and do whatever they want with it. And I think with these podcasts, maybe there's a little, I mean, they're there, it just maybe a little bit more professional way.
There is a feature on the YouTube live stream that you can disable any comments. So I think what was being referenced earlier was that if there is a comment made, it should be responded to because it's considered a public comment. If they're unable to make a public comment during a live stream, there's no need to have to obviously respond because they can't. But
well, I view it as myself, or like Holland, they have public access TV and they've had their meetings on public access TV for decades. It was so the public could watch the meeting. This is even better because it gets archived automatically. But also when you're watching the TV, you can't make comments other than to the people that are in the room, so I'm fine with, we disable comments and put in the note to say, if you want to send in public comment, please feel free. This is how you do it. We'll be happy to take your public comment. It's just, it gets really messy if you have the comments on some of the videos. The other nice thing on YouTube as far as archiving is you can also search by words because it auto subtitles. So it automatically does subtitling for you. Now, it's not the best subtitling in the world if the mics aren't good, but at least there's something present there for it. And you can also search through those subtitles to look for specific things. If you're looking for them talking about, you know, the Water Street parking lot, you could say Water Street parking lot and it will find all the instances in the video. You can click on them and you can go right to that part in the video and find it. Most municipalities that I've seen have been using YouTube. Some use Facebook, some use both to do their live streams.
Yeah, I know Joel had shared with me the public access TV that they had in Holland, and I think maybe it happened more than once where a resident was watching and came, you know, out of his home in the middle of the meeting and driving to the council meetings because he had something important to say, so that could happen, you know, so
happens.
just be prepared when you see somebody screeching up here.
So again, this wasn't supposed to be I was not anticipating a long conversation, but shows how much I really know. We're gonna do this tonight. We will send out the link to council. You can tell us if you think the production's okay, if you think the volume is okay. Parker will look into that NPR thing. I'll be honest, I am not a big fan of recording public meetings. Scott Smith, the previous city attorney, when it was a couple council members that requested it, he called me the next day and he said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Your minutes are your official record, period." And I go, "Well, council wants to do it and we're doing it." One thing, Parker, I'm gonna reiterate what Parker was saying. The live stream makes it easier for staff to upload it because we would have the meeting on different flash drives that Parker then would have to stitch together. Then Parker then have to upload it from his cubicle, and that would take all the bandwidth down in our department as we try to upload those videos. So this live streaming is just an instant thing, so it is easier. We're doing it more as ease for staff than for a benefit to anyone else.
Rachel?
Is this just for council, or are we doing this for all meetings? Planning, I think those are
Correct,
important.
yeah. Via email. That's going to be bid again through MDOT with a construction start date of spring 2022. hoping to get better construction prices than what we got this fall. And then the M89 Hubbard realignment, M89 M40 Hubbard realignment, we have been in discussions with MDOT on that. We've gone ahead and have authorized a design to see if a roundabout would work there, because we are running into some backup issues with left-hand turns on the Ely. And we're gonna be looking under every single rock we can find to make sure we do this right this time, the first time. I understand that intersections has always been a headache, and we're gonna hopefully make it less of a headache moving forward. However, where we are now is we really need to start talking about construction drawings for the downtown. If you've been following the news, you are well aware that they are flirting with some infrastructure programs coming both from the federal and state level. Those typically go to shovel-ready projects, not dreams, but, things that are ready to, projects that are ready to move forward, at a moment's notice. So we would like to begin coming up with construction drawings for the high-level planning that we did the past couple of years. This includes making Locust a two-way street. We have flirted with the idea of creating festival streets where the sidewalk in the street is flush, so it's easy to move back and forth. We've talked about how wide a sidewalk should be. We're going to be spending this fall going around and looking at other cities that have recently completed some streetscape projects. What I'm going to call phase one is the complete reconstruction of roads, sidewalks, water, sewer, landscaping, benches, lights, that's what's all in that, et cetera, on Brady Street. So that's all the way from 2nd Street or State Street to Hubbard. Locust Street, all the way from Hubbard north to Water Street, so in between Minnie's and Box and Bubba's, and then parts of Hubbard and Trowbridge. You're looking at a total cost to do all that work, around $5.1 million. The design and construction engineering is around $679,000. And a total construction cost of $4.5 million. We are only talking this evening about allocating funds and the process to allocate funds for the design phase. So we are not talking about the construction. We are only talking about the design phase. We're not talking about construction management or bidding right now. It's just creating these documents. They will include a couple public meetings, work through the DDA, work through city council, and then, like I mentioned, a couple all-invite public meetings where, people can kind of come in, reaffirm the high level, because we have the high level. But now we got to start picking out, what's the street furniture really look like? Kind of a discussion has to happen. So we got to get into picking out the color of the grout and the tile kind of stuff when you're, we know we want a bathroom. And we know we want tile floor. Now we got to talk about what color the grout's going to be. Abonmarche has submitted a proposal. That proposal came in on Friday. We probably were working with Abonmarche for the past month on putting this proposal together. We met Friday morning or Thursday morning? Friday morning to finalize the proposal with Abonmarche. Again, the bullet points you see on the screen right now is the extent of the streets that are covered under that proposal. And as council has been made aware, we have received a $99,000 grant from the USDA to help with this design. So the total city cost is $179 roughly, which is approximately, we're paying 60 cents on the dollar for this design work if you include that grant into it. It makes sense for us to do this work right now. It makes sense for us to get ready. It's the logical next step as we talk about our downtown streetscape. This is work that has to get done. There are two ways really to look at this, and one is after we have this conversation, and as I mentioned, Abonmarche is in the room. If council's comfortable, you may amend the agenda tonight to take action on this purchase, on this agreement. If you're not comfortable, we can push it back to September 27th. We run into a little bit of a hiccup this time of year with us having to cancel the first meeting in September due to the parade that our meetings stretch out over a whole month, when typically we're meeting every other week, and plus August is a 5-Monday month as well, which also hurts us a little bit. We could do a special meeting also if the majority of council would like to schedule a special meeting to, approve this project. So on the screen, what you see right there is the time frame. One is the initial, and then one is the alternative. A goal would be to do bidding in February if possible, because you can kind of get better prices than bidding, at the beginning of a construction season. So yeah, that's really, I'm kicking it off to council on how you want to discuss this next step in the downtown streetscape.
Do you guys from Abonmarche have anything to add? Invite you on up.
If you recall, I was here back earlier this year talking about the revolving loan funds from the Department of Energy, Great Lakes Environment. And so this project is a component of what we submitted there as well. If you recall, they had two sides of it. There was a drinking water and clean water revolving loan fund. And so the scope of work is something that had been in our thought process as we were drafting those documents. And this also has a component of Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund that would be eligible, approximately $986,000. So there's a component of funding there as well that ties into this. And to Joel's point about being ready to capitalize on those things, if you wait until you are finalized and awarded, you're already on a Q4, fourth quarter, last available, I guess, timeline. For those who want to be in an earlier quarter of that funding source, having some momentum towards plan completion will put you on a better path towards meeting probably Q2 or Q3 funding timeline for that. But as Joel said, there's a lot of those same underground infrastructure as well as the surface elements are included in this. Water main replacement, sanitary sewer improvements where there's some issues that we've been working back and forth with Doug Swiris and Doug Katzbahn, identifying those utility needs. So those are all component of this work.
You want to talk about potential loan forgiveness off that?
We are, odd thing to celebrate, but we did receive disadvantaged status for the State Revolving Loan Fund. And so there's potential for 20% principal forgiveness on that $986,000, which would be a good chunk of change, almost $200,000. That's not guaranteed. As I look through the list, which I have right in front of me, of the disadvantaged communities, unfortunately, we were monitoring this and they came out with a list and Allegan was not credited with that status on this list. So we called and raised that issue, and they are going to be rescoring and including you guys on the list. But it does indicate the estimated principal forgiveness by community on those. So I would look forward to soon knowing whether there's that principal forgiveness out there. All but one on this list that I'm looking at right now have that 20% principal forgiveness, and some actually have forgiveness above and beyond that.
Thank you. Tony, did you have anything?
No,
to
it's just, to Joel's point, I think it's at that opportunity now where some funding things are starting to fall in place, and so you're kind of at a crossroads. Do you wait till you get all your money in place and then do your design work and all that? Or do you get your design work going while you're waiting for working on your capital stack, so that as soon as that's together, you can go, taking advantage of some of the programs that are out there? So that's kind of where you're at. Having the USDA grant hit this year for that, $99,000, that kind of helped a little bit, take that burden off the general fund. So we're really here before you guys to see if you want to take that next step and start getting that work done for, Dan's been pretty immersed for this last couple months now. I think he knows downtown as well as anybody outside of city staff at this point. But it's kind of a conversation for you guys in terms of answering any questions you have, talking through this and seeing where you want to go with it.
Thank you, guys. I just have a quick question of Joel. We received notification about that money from Fred Upton's office, correct? Is that?
Correct. So what we heard from Fred Upton's office is that our request for community impact, community improvement, something along that. We requested $1 million. It got out of committee at $250,000. So the committee, the Committee of Appropriations, the House Committee of Appropriations is recommending that the City of Allegan receive $250,000 for this work.
That's a big difference.
It was a $1 million request. The,
Wait a minute. It is, but.
being one of 10 projects in Southwest Michigan to be recognized by, Representative Upton when they probably received
No, lots.
40,
We put in like 8 or 10 ourselves, so.
was appreciated very much, at least from my perspective. Yeah, that was a good phone call. I wish it was $1 million, but I'm not going to snap back when someone says, hey, we're going to, the Committee of Appropriations is recommending, $250,000 for the City of Allegan.
Absolutely. I just wanted to double check because
Yeah.
I knew that we had that funding. Did anyone have any questions? Peter?
Question, like, since we talked a lot about the water and sewer and the changes that are needed in that, one, can those designs and engineering costs be put towards the water and sewer fund and/or the American Rescue Plan? Because that was one of the things that we could use that money for.
Correct. So Tracy is in the back there. Tracy spent the Friday and the weekend divvying up where these costs for construction will go when it's all said and done.
I was talking to design and engineering because we're sinking in so much in design and engineering of those sewer systems. Can that part of it also be put towards it?
Did we break out the costs on this design? Yeah.
Percentages, the sewer, you get let's see.
I have that spreadsheet.
The mostly, I'm just looking, are we gonna be able to use different pots of money, different funds, the water and sewer fund, or that American Rescue Plan fund money for some of this design work as well as some of the construction if we want to? Not saying we have to, but it's just what money pots are available and how they can be allocated.
Dan went through, and not just the utilities, but the road work you'd have to get through to get to the utilities as part of associated with those funds, so that they're broken out.
That goes to that that goes to the $986,000. That is the sewer itself plus a component of the road that would be associated with that sewer improvement. And so we had allocated percentage-wise some breakdowns of water and wastewater for the 287. I could run those numbers very quickly unless Tracy has them.
Yeah, it's about 24% for sewer, 31 for water.
Yep.
31
That's what I'm seeing.
And Tracy, that's for design itself, not just construction
That's
costs?
the project
The whole
overall,
project cost?
but So it would be the same percentages for
Yeah,
For the design, okay.
design.
But then would we be able to use water and sewer funds for that percentage and/or the American Rescue Plan? Because sewer was one of the things that we could use it for, or broadband.
So Peter, to answer your question, so what Dan and Tracy put together was 31% of this project can be allocated with water funds. And then 24%, so you're looking at what, 55% of this stuff can be allocated towards our, out of our water and sewer fund budget.
Including the American Rescue Fund.
Yes, we can use that money for,
So,
for this.
so we could use that for this as well.
Well, I'm not saying we should.
Yeah.
I'm saying, is it possible?
I got like two people in my ear right here. I got the microphone people and this very quietly.
That was my only, it was just what pots of money we can use
Yeah.
to kind of figure out how this budget would all go down for the whole project. Just I want to get a good
Yeah,
understanding of
so
that.
the ask right now of 278, and well, it's really 179, because we do have that grant of 99,000. That is, funding that is available right now in our accounts. I mean, our fund balance, this is something, we would not bring it to council if we didn't, have the money, available to pull this off right now. The question is, and I fully appreciate getting something, last minute and that being asked to, think about it. This is just work that just happened, Friday. And we are working hard to get the packets out on Thursdays to give council more time. If you do not want to take action tonight, you don't have to take action tonight. If you want to read the proposal a little bit more, you can read the proposal a little bit more. Yeah, but if you are comfortable moving forward with this next step, then it is something where you can amend the agenda tonight and, authorize staff to, enter into an agreement with Abonmarche for this next, phase, next project. What other questions are there from council?
So it's not necessarily a question. I mean, my one question was, do we already have the funds? I mean, this is something we've been planning on, something we know we want to do. And if we could do it tonight rather than kick the can down the road another month and be ahead of the game and get bids in before everybody's swamped trying to do bids, I think we should make a motion to add this to our agenda tonight.
So just one thing I want to be clear on. This is getting us in a position, teeing us up.
So, right.
So we're
I
not getting
understand.
bids in. This
Right.
is getting
But
us
But it's
to,
the thing that we have to do in order to get our funding.
Correct.
Right, so we know we have to get this done, and so why, we shouldn't wait until, in my opinion, you do the work you can do when you can do it, and then prepare for what's coming, so I don't think we should just sit and wait. I think that's a bad way to operate.
Thanks, Roger. What'd you think, Teresa?
I agree.
No, sorry. That was not, that had nothing to, the,
Teresa.
My concern is, we spend the money doing the design now, and where is the rest of the money's gonna come from? That, and I understand if we don't jump on board and get, some of these grants or some of this funding, but we're talking a big chunk of money to do this project, even after spending the money on the design. So, that is my concern.
Yeah, and that is well, Dan.
please come to the microphone so you can be in the,
Yes, I listened to the point earlier about when the green light's on. And that is while Dan's doing design, Joel and I will be focusing on that capital part. We know 50% just over is because it's water and sewer. And then we got a little bit coming from some other sources. That's what the focus needs to be on in the next 6 months is figuring out the rest of that money as the stimulus money starts to roll in and being ready for it. But you're right, we have to figure that out.
And I understand that, you're working on it, but you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, as the saying goes, nobody knows what taxes are gonna be, you don't know how the revenue is gonna change.
Tracy, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen, so it's either we're faced with a decision of, do we wait till we have all the money to do it? Or do we hedge our bets, that it's that Abonmarche's gonna do their job and gonna find some money for us? Joel and staff is gonna do their job. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Either we wait till we have all the money and then start to design, or what do we do? It's a bad situation, I know, Teresa. I know it's one that makes you uncomfortable.
Rachel?
This seems very much like how we played out with the Riverfront. We put a little bit of seed money in and we got a bunch of grants and, I mean, had we waited until we had all the money in the pot to do the Riverfront, we'd still be sitting there with cars parked there and people driving through every Friday night. So this makes sense. I mean, it's a chunk of change, but this council and even leading up to this council, we've been discussing redoing our streetscape. And so we're never going to have all the money available to do that sort of stuff immediately on hand and ready to rock. It's never going to happen that way. So this is really how it has to happen. And hypothetically, I guess if it never comes to fruition, at least in the time frame we're expecting, we still have the design plan. We have a design plan for the wastewater treatment plant, right? That we know what we can do once we have the money for it.
And I guess my thinking is by the time, you know, they go and design it, by the time we may have the funding, it needs to be redone again. You know,
The design, you mean?
My experience from, I guess, historic economic issues, like the Great Recession, being on a council, is that whether you agree with it or not, the federal government doles out money after something like this. After a pandemic, there's just always money coming towards communities. Now, will it be all of the money needed for a streetscape or whatever it might be? I don't know, but there's always money. And you have to be ready. It isn't, oh, well, we were gonna do our design, but we're waiting to hear from you guys to see if we can have that $500,000.
right?
It's the same with, I hope to God not a roundabout, just because I cannot navigate those things to save my life. But nonetheless, we purchased that property, we tore the house
I would like a
down.
roundabout, just for the record.
All right, we did all of that stuff to show MDOT we were ready for it. That's why we did that sort of stuff, well before we needed to show MDOT we meant what we said and we said what we mean.
And that's a great example, actually, Rachel. Thank you for putting it in that perspective. Like, to think that, okay, we'd purchased these properties years ago in order to be able to have this reconstruction area. I do understand what you're saying, absolutely. But I think that if we have the design, then we can be ready, where otherwise we're kind of falling back on our heels a bit. So, Peter, did you have something further?
The last one I have is the 99K grant. How long do we have before we have to use that? And is it only dedicated to this project that we can use it?
Sorry, yeah, you have 1 year and it is dedicated to this
So
project.
it's one of those also, we currently have 100K sitting here and it's dedicated to this project. And if we don't foresee any other funding methods coming in, I would at least want to move forward with a design, because otherwise we just give up 100K that we were given to do the design work with. And I think it would be a good investment as far as a lot of these grants and things, you do have to be really close to being ready to go shovel ready, that you can show, yeah, we have the stuff ready, so that they don't just say, yeah, that's a pipe dream and that's gonna be how long for you to get that
I
done.
know how grants work. so,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was my only thing, is like,
I've done grants.
if we lose that grant money, that's one less funding that we got, so.
For Abonmarche? Well, thanks, gentlemen. Go ahead, have a seat. So if this is something that we want to amend the agenda, we'll just need to do that at the beginning of regular session and just make a motion, what, Joel, just to accept the proposal for professional services from Abonmarche? Okay.
With a
And,
not,
do you
with a
want the
not
dollar
to
amount?
exceed cost of 270.
I would say, do we want to
Yeah.
include the, okay.
Okay. No, I'd say with the not to exceed of that, because the agreement is with Abonmarche, where the funding sources come in is different. And just real quick, Teresa, Tracy and I completely concur with your feeling. You are gonna have to replace this carpet because we walk in circles in here so much. You know, pondering that exact question over and over and over.
I'm just saying, we spent many a meetings trying to come up with the Second Street design. and conversations, and now it's on hold.
Yeah.
So, and I get the whole grant thing, I get that the monies is, you know, we gotta move to get the monies, I get that. It's just very concerning how we're gonna come up with the rest of the money, you know. Right now, we're paying for the sewer plant because somebody had these great ideas.
Okay, is there anything else, council, about this particular item? No? Okay. We will go ahead and move on down to the discussion regarding rental fees in the city of Allegan.
Okay, I'm just gonna kick this off very quickly, and then I'm gonna let council take it from there. Staff only needs to know what direction the council of a whole wants to go with charging rental fees. In your budget, you have a fee schedule that addresses pretty much all the fees from my perspective. On our applications, we have some policy, I guess one could say, discussion, or some policy guiding points on how we implement some of those fees. And then every person has the right to petition council, you know, if they want a waiver from anything, that council has the authority to grant the waiver from. So on the screen behind you is a list of all those fees that Parker and I were able to identify. In your council packet was all the applications that also listed the fees. I know some council members have reached out, just pick on Councilmember Byrd, said, hey, I'd like to talk about this again. And so we're here tonight to just kind of listen to what council has to say about how we handle our fees.
Thank you, Joel. Roger, since you had brought this up, do you want to get the conversation started?
Yeah. So, and I was a little confused when I looked through this, because when we redid our fee structure, I thought we took out all of the kind of asterisks, you know, the little thing, saying for, well, primarily like the banquet room, which is a generous, no, the downstairs, that's a generous term for our Griswold downstairs, so, right now, but for that banquet room, because it used to be, you know, for community organizations or something, there was like a 50%, and I thought we had taken that out, but as I looked, I was really pretty sure we took that out, and then as I look back through our schedule here on this nice little sheet that we got, that is back in there, which is really what which is what I wanted, and it also has.
It's not, you did take it out. That message was not shared with the staff that put that form together, is my only explanation.
So
But
how,
Tracy and I are very clear that was taken out if somehow the staff that oversee that application didn't receive that message from me or Tracy.
so how those are written now is actually what I was hoping for. Because if we have, I kept thinking, like, if we have an art teacher that wanted to come in and do an art class, or I mean, quite honestly, if there was a church who wanted to come in and rent it, $125 an hour is a lot. But if we cut that in half, then it's a little more doable. So I just wanted to make it more accessible for organizations that aren't necessarily trying to make a buck, but are trying to do something good in our community.
But I think what we decided on, I don't know if it's on the form, is that anybody can come in front of council and ask for a reduction. I think we were just trying to keep it simple. This is the fee. If you want something different, you can come in front of council. Is that on the form?
No.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
This is why I wanted to have a discussion.
So
And just tell us how you want to do it, and we'll make all the changes.
what's your confusion, Rachel?
Where are you seeing that there is something that suggests there's half off for anybody?
If you, when you read down through the Griswold, request of use for the Griswold auditorium form,
On the form itself?
yeah.
On the,
Nonprofit rate, half of all prices listed above. Free use for community Allegan events during the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, $100 flat rate outside of those.
Right, there were
Thank
three
you.
different documents provided in your packet. One is the one that you have there. Yep, that's the city use, or the use of city right-of-ways
One I was
form.
looking at.
And then
Okay.
there's a Griswold form, and then there's a Regent Theater form. Each
And-
one of
yeah.
those are their own separate thing.
And the region has the school rate, which I think is great. What a great use of that facility to bring kids in there.
Okay.
So how the forms are actually
And
written, I
that's,
really
that's,
like.
that's any school in the state of Michigan. That's not just
Oh, it's not
Allegan
just
Public
Allegan schools. Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's any school sanctioned thing, 'cause I thought it was just Allegan Public, but Parker corrected me this morning.
We just had the Byron Center track team rent the theater on Friday.
So any school function or any school whatever will be given.
Yeah.
$3 per student or a flat $50 fee.
Okay.
And unfortunately, so these are costs that are on the reservation forms, but we're not, for some reason, put into our fee schedule, which is a no-no. So we just need to know from council, how do you want us to handle the park reservations? How do you want us to handle the Riverfront stage? You just tell us the costs. If you want everyone to come in here and ask permission every time, and then you can just give it for free or whatever, that's cool. But we just need something that's a little bit smoother.
And yeah, and that seems so arbitrary to me, like, just, I mean, we just had that with J.C. Park the other day, and then with Tantric too, where it was just kind of like, oh, well, how about this amount, or how about that amount? I mean, for me, I would prefer to have it like clearly outlined, and whether all nonprofits get half off or whatever that case may be. Full disclosure, I put in for the Ugly Sweater 5K, all that information, because I'm on the committee and I was charged with that, so I will be abstaining from that vote. I don't.
But you're
get
not
anything-
asking to, I mean, it's still open to the public.
It is, but then that becomes an issue for staff, because we're not looking to use the stage, but just the riverfront area
And electric.
and electric, and use items for like closing roads.
Yeah.
So
There's a-
it becomes a hassle for staff to try to wade through all of that, so.
And and maybe, is that a good, I don't want it to be too complicated, but an event that's open to the whole community rather than we're gonna do this very specific thing that's just for us. I don't know how we police that, but.
Tracy, you said no to nonprofits?
I just, I don't know, the whole thing, I feel like needs to be taken back to square one, instead of maybe a whole agenda item on this thing, and let's start from the beginning, because I don't know that anybody is really understanding what we're asking people to pay for at this point. I'm confused now, because it sounds like we've had a couple different reiterations of things, and when I look at the fee schedule in our budget, it says nothing about discounts, so I don't even know.
Well, the fee schedule is why I wanted us to have the discussion, because I don't think that that's our best way for community buildings and community spaces. I don't think that that's the best way to do it. And if we want to have everybody come in and request special fees every time, I think that sounds like a hassle.
And I
but-
guess what we're trying to cover too is like staff time. Maybe that is what the rental fee is how much does it pay per hour for somebody to be in the building or whatever? I don't know.
Do you have any idea how much we actually get from rentals of our public spaces? I mean, is it worth the even charging, or is it just calling and reserving? I don't know.
So while Tracy's looking, there is a long history in this community, at least from when I've been on council, of giving away public assets to private and/or nonprofit organizations. So I asked for all of the applications, all of the Griswold use, however, the history of that from 2013 to 2016. And in my dumb wisdom of using Excel, I saved all that information. I don't know how, but I was able to access that. I can go back to 2015, and pretty much what we're charging now is what we were charging in 2015. There may be a few changes, and I think it was with the parks where it was 150 with a $50 deposit, and now we've just made it $200 and gotten rid of the deposit.
But there was a 50% discount for.
No.
There was, because
Oh.
I rented the Griswold for my son's wedding, and.
As a
Vicky
church or as a private
As a
individual?
private individual.
And you got
Vicky-
50% off?
Vicky Knuckles said, "Oh, well, you're a pastor, I'll give it to you for 50%."
Right, so let me ask you
Which
this.
is just
That's
another
my
case of history.
nonprofit issue.
So, right, so let me ask you this. If we were talking about parking tickets or street violations, and you paid a different price for your violation because you're a pastor than I did, that's an issue.
Yeah.
It is. I
well-
mean, it is an issue.
I know.
And so, fair
But
pricing.
that's how I remember that
I
there
gotcha.
was a 50%
But
discount, because I'm like, are you
fair
kidding
and
me?
consistent pricing is important. And so if we think that your church or you deserve 50% off because you're a pastor, are we saying we believe what you preach as a pastor versus a different pastor?
But that's not the, because Wings of Hope is a nonprofit too. So it's not about churches necessarily.
Well, no, it's about
uh,
the good that people are doing, and
and-
that's contingent
and
upon what
whether
this
it's a
council
money-
thinks is
whether it's
good
causing-
or not.
Whether it's for profit or not for.
No, I'm viewing it as 50% off any kind of nonprofit is a donation. So basically, this council is determining, right? We're deciding that that nonprofit is worth the taxpayers' money. They're the ones that are going to have to cover that fee, ultimately, because they're the ones paying into the coffer. So who do we choose to be the better nonprofit? Or should everyone just pay the same thing? And we level the playing field?
So I feel like that's two different arguments.
I don't. I mean, consistent pricing is consistent pricing, depending upon whether, it shouldn't matter if you're tax exempt, nonprofit, whatever it might be.
So you don't think if somebody's holding an event to make a profit should be charged differently than somebody who's doing it to benefit the community?
I don't at this point. No, I think it's a slippery slope. What's the benefit?
I don't see what the slope is.
Well, does the silo give discounts to nonprofits for events?
I don't know, I've never booked Asylum.
I'm just like thinking out loud, why do we look at the city?
I'm sure anybody can
Things-
request it, just like we kind of doing right now, is if
Right.
you want it at a lower price, you have to kind of come before us and actually plead your case, and it's not just I'm a 501(c)(2), C3, C4, immediately I get a discount, because if that's, part of it would be, is it open to the public type event? Is it a community event? If I'm gonna offer any sort of discount, it's because it's a community event that we're not having to host, we're not paying to host, they're doing all
that's
that.
fair.
But if it's just, I'm gonna have a private event and I'm a 501(c), I want it at 50% off just because I'm nonprofit, that's like, well, that's not really for a community good. The only ones I look at that are kind of like, as well as like our fee schedule, like the Mahan Park or, which one was it? No, that's JC Park, the $100. What are you actually renting for the $100? The whole park? Are we saying that's the cost to rent just the
It's the
cover?
pavilion, right?
The
Yeah.
pavilion, are you telling me it's $100 to rent a pavilion for 4 hours? That's a little pricey in my head, but I'm fine with where it's kind of at. I view it as if they want a discount, they can come and ask for a discount and leave it at that. And if we want to have an application to ask for a discount, let's figure out an application of the questions that we want to know. And you apply and you can come before us and get a discount. And if we make it our policy that the maximum it can be is 50%, we can also just say that's the maximum that it can be is 50%. But when I look at it, it's like we talk about that we need the Griswold to make sure we're bringing in some money on it, and just giving it away constantly isn't the best.
We just talked about the sports complex,
Complex.
and, I mean, all parks need to be maintained.
And if it's,
I mean, we talk out of both sides of our mouth, realistically.
yeah,
You can't say that you want, our budgets, we got to start earning money, we got to be able to maintain our parks and this, but we also have to give it away to nonprofits, those who do good.
Yeah.
What is doing good for the community? Based on your beliefs or this council's beliefs right now. and that could change.
Plenty of
next-
for-profits that have done lots of good. Look at pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, so I guess part of this is about bringing money in, because most nonprofits are not going to rent the downstairs of the Griswold at $125 an hour. And so do we want part of something or all of nothing? We're pricing ourselves out, I think, for not-for-profits.
What, I guess curiously, what nonprofits are we talking about?
Well, I mean,
I just thought of ARC. I mean, ARC usually does all of their parties or they used to do all their parties in the basement. Allegan Resource Center, they did their Christmas and Halloween, and I used to be on that board, and I know, I mean, we would typically get that at a 50% discount.
At a 50% discount.
yeah. And there's an event that we were looking at doing in the downstairs of the Griswold that we are not going to because it's too expensive.
I think getting into coming before the board and asking the mother, may I, and yes, you get 50% off, and no, you don't, is very much back to the HDC. You can be sided, no, you can't be sided. You can have vinyl windows, no, you have to do wood windows.
I agree with that.
That's why
It's that same
Yeah, I
concept.
kind of agree with Peter, because I feel like what we did with Tantric,
Well, that was all my fault.
Right, well,
I'll
then-
admit, in now that this is an issue, that we want
No, it
everybody to.
just, yeah, so then when we had the church come in and ask for the J.C. Park, which $100 is what they charge at Little John Lake too for their picnic pavilion, but then it was kind of like, well, we didn't let Tantric use it, but this is like a nonprofit. So then I felt really in a quandary of, well, what are we gonna do? Like, how do you handle this?
I think.
So I would like to have, like I said, I don't want it to be like this arbitrary decision that council just, each person makes, oh, well, yeah, you sound good, but we don't like your idea, or you're for profit, or you're not. So I don't,
it's either we come up with a policy that's a set standard for a discount, that it's you must meet these things to get said discount, or it's.
Or you
it's-
don't get
or
a
you don't
discount, and we stick with the policy we have currently that we've
Which
already
is-
adopted.
Which was in the policy as well, was just, hey, if you want to come and request it, doesn't mean you're going to get it.
Anybody
Anybody
can
can
come
request
at any
anything at any
time.
time.
Right.
But doesn't mean you're going to get it necessarily, but it's either one or the other for me. It's either we have a policy that's clear cut, you meet these requirements to get a discount, or it's got to be one or the other, otherwise it's just capricious and arbitrary.
And as the person who offered the compromise to Tantric, I understand that I want across the board, what's fair is fair for everyone. So if you want the pavilion or whatever it is, if you think $100 is too much,
Oh,
then don't rent it.
I
Not
don't-
you personally.
No, I'm just saying
Any
it's
kind of
comparison.
entity, anything.
And now
That's
that
what
I know
would
Little
like.
John's the same price, that was the mostly thing is, I don't know necessarily what the market prices are, and being told, hey, Little John's the same price means, okay, we're not asking too much. I don't know what the market price is on some of these things, so it's good to know, are we at fair? Or, so like that downtown banquet room, or the banquet room, is that comparable in cost to having to go rent the silo
Or
or to
Hartman
go to
Ellis
the
or something,
event
yeah, I don't know
center?
what
But we haven't really increased our prices
Yeah.
since 2015. I think that's pretty fair. Where have you gone right now that they haven't increased their prices for 6 years? Your insurance, I mean,
And to be honest, if you want to have a meeting room or something for free, you just go up to the VOTEC. They don't charge for their meeting rooms.
or the library too.
Or the library.
the team players for the organizations at the sports complex, that's $15. It's been like that since 2007.
It doesn't really cover much of the total cost, but
doesn't.
it's something. That's,
I mean,
And
okay.
it's
We
fair
might as
and
well
it's
take
applied.
donations if that's how we're thinking. It's something.
Teresa, did you have anything to weigh in on this? Okay. Tracy?
I'm good with the fee schedule as it is and have been. I mean, it's, everybody pays.
And so what do you think about as far as people coming in to request? Like that, I think we need to be able to give staff like an idea of if we're still gonna entertain that, if we need them to do some sort of a policy regarding that. Because I know just from conversations with Joel that this rental, all these applications have caused a lot of staff time and headaches as it
Well,
is.
in all of the applications, are we talking maybe the 3 or 4 that we've received? Because that doesn't seem like a lot, no offense to staff or anyone, but I'm sure it's a headache because they don't know which way to turn, even after we've discussed it, adopted it, and gone against our own policy.
So did Tracy come up with a dollar amount, if she's standing back there patiently waiting, or a number? I had to make you be quiet for a minute.
I will say that with the forms, I think what's just frustrating is we set the fee schedule. We thought, I didn't know the actual forms didn't get updated, but that, you know, we do that and then it's like, for this person, we're gonna do something different. So it's like our forms don't matter at this point because something always changes. So that's, from staff's point, I think, one of the bigger issues. As far as the gazebo rentals, park rental, well, this line right here is gazebo rentals. In fiscal year 19, which was for 18-19, we had revenue of $4,655. Last year was only $678 because of COVID.
Right.
So far this year, we're at $1,600. For the Griswold, in 18-19, we were at 20,000. Last year, 10,200. And this year so far is $2,260. So it's not tons of money. It's not paying for either the parks or the Griswold, but it's better than nothing.
Thanks for looking that up, Tracy. So,
Did you want any other ones besides the Griswold and the gazebo rentals?
and that's pretty much, I mean, Regent, I don't know that that's rented very often, but
1,900 in 2019, 2,300 last year. I think there was a bigger event or a bigger something rental. Yeah, that's just building rent, and then this year so far is only $410.
On a side note on the Regent rental, one thing that I thought of this last week was high school reunions that want to do a movie night. To rent a Regent would be actually kind of a neat idea as well. Any high schools that are like, hey, let's get together, let's rent the Regent for a couple hours, watch some of our classic movies, and have a movie night, and then go out to the different restaurants downtown here afterwards. You know, brought that up to my brother, and he was considering it because their reunion was just canceled, and he's like, well, maybe we can do something else, like I'll just rent the Regent and invite whoever wants to come on down, and we'll do a little movie night and get together.
yeah, that would be a cool idea. So staff is looking for some sort of direction, council. We have a fee schedule in place, which I am absolutely fine keeping. But then as far as all of these requests for reductions, is that something we want to continue? Is it just a flat rate and there's no haggling?
When
Or
people
can-
are filling out, I guess I have a question. When they're filling out the application, are they asking at the window for a discount? And then that's when they're being told, come to council and,
Correct, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I was just curious on how these came about. I'm fine with the fee schedule as is.
Any reductions? Considerations for waivers of fees?
I've made my point. I mean, I said what I wanted to say, so I don't need to restate it.
It sounds like for staff, that is where the confusion comes in. So then they're able to just say the fee schedule is this fee schedule.
The most I'd entertain is the same as usual, which is you can always have petition, and they can submit the petition to the council, and we can take it up or just decline to even have it on the agenda if we want, either direction.
I guess if that's the direction that we take, I want to have some sort of like set, okay, this is a not-for-profit, they get this amount. Like, I don't want to just sit up here and be like, oh, well, how about $50 for you or $25 for you?
I'm just curious, for our fee schedule, can someone petition for every fee there is?
They can, it doesn't
Or
mean we
just
even
the
have to take it out.
parks? Or just the Griswold?
They can petition council for anything. The question is, does council have the authority to waive? There are certain fees you cannot waive.
Burial fees?
Probably could, actually.
You are my favorite person at
Well,
this
let's think
moment.
about what we're
Perfect.
doing
Yeah.
here. I mean,
So I'm not sure if we've gotten really good direction,
no.
Except for-
You never do. This-
except just keep what we have. We need to fix our 2 forms that weren't fixed when we updated our other forms to remove the half stuff. That was a surprise to us. You know, there are some full disclosure things I got to share with council. Last year, you set a goal of work with community agencies to strengthen youth and adult recreation in the city. So we've worked with people to let them use the bottom of the Griswold for pickleball. They don't pay a fee, they don't reserve it, but it's a community, it's a recreation, so I feel comfortable saying that. I have a request now for someone that wants to use the Griswold for cardio drumming. If it's open to the public, is it recreation? They don't charge for it, that's a condition, they can't charge, they can't make money. I mean, am I not supposed to be encouraging that in the city as adult recreation, which is number 5 on your goals from last year? So I've gone out on the limb on a couple of these things. I mean, they signed their waiver forms that, you know, Tammy has them sign. But there are some use happening down there that it's not an organization per se. It's not a formal organization. It's not a wedding. It's not a family. It's just, you know, drop-in pickleball. It's gonna be drop-in cardio drumming. I kind of need to make sure I'm not putting my neck way out on a line. If this council's saying every time someone's inside that building, they better be signing something. I don't know if in the fee schedule, if we have that special fee that we do for community agencies that use more than 80 hours. So we came to that agreement back. So we,
So come to a free class, obviously, at this point.
like cabaret. It's $1,800 is what we negotiated back in 18 with them.
Something like that. It's in that,
It was less than
Griswold.
1,800 they were paying before I got here.
correct.
The previous staff person that you talked to, nonprofits or churches got connections, got half off. City employees got to use that thing for free. And I stopped that immediately. Just like I stopped free popcorn for city employees at the Regent. Yeah, I know. Okay. If you guys knew what council members got that I stopped when I came, I mean, these small little, yeah. 2,500? Yeah, so 25 times 80 is 1,800, I believe. So we've done some of that work. Again, I want to make sure I'm not going too far out or being too fast and loose with some stuff.
Thanks, Joel. That just
Maybe
made
you
this
should, you
more
know what?
difficult.
So
They
I'm
recommend
fine
you send it to the Public Spaces Commission is the text I'm getting. And let the Public Spaces Commission come back with reservation fees.
with a timeline of the decision.
Teresa.
Those are your, so beyond the.
Excuse me, we could not even write cemetery rules.
Beyond the actual fee schedule, the application for the use of city properties and right-of-way application, is there any way that we can include like the EIN for some of these nonprofits or, you know, proof that things are
Yeah,
as they are?
we can make them submit their IRS 501c3 form. I mean, that's what I did in a previous role I had.
Because we're not requesting any of that
We
currently.
are not requesting any of that stuff. We just know what, I mean, or we just assume, you know, what's the one next to us? Positive Options is a nonprofit. Wings of Hope is a nonprofit. There are assumptions we're making. We can make them, you know, do a little more paperwork if they want that discount.
But, I mean, we have something coming up in our regular meeting that we have to vote on. It is for a nonprofit organization, but it's not the nonprofit organization that's doing it.
Well, they're also a nonprofit.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a 501c3. No, the Allegan Ugly
It's the
Sweater.
ugly sweater.
Oh, they're their own nonprofit?
They're registered as.
Oh, okay, I did not know that, okay.
Because it's not included in the application.
I wrote it on the application.
No, you wrote it, yes, but there's no actual proof of that. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, for most applications.
I did not
You
know
have to
that they
provide
were
some sort of
nonprofit.
proof.
Okay, okay.
But you guys, never mind, that's for the
Well,
regular.
to be
meeting.
honest, as far as if you're a nonprofit or not, it doesn't make as much of a difference to me and my thoughts on it, because I know plenty of people that are nonprofits that their CEOs make tons and tons of money, and it's not what I'm considering. What I would be considering is if you're gonna put in and ask us to waive the fees, I better see that it's a community event, open to the public, that's for the betterment of the community, and that's why we're offering a discount. Not that you're just a nonprofit, and guess what, you're a nonprofit, you get to use the Griswold for private events all you want for dirt cheap. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, that is a public building there for the public good that the public is paid for and maintained. And to say we're doing a public event and we're offering a discount, like when we do, the city does positive, well, it's no longer Positively Allegan, but downtown for like using the stage. I'm assuming that we're not charging from one account to the other account for the use of that, for all the rolling on the riverfront. That's similar. If somebody wants to have a concert down there and they want to petition us for it, I'm willing to entertain it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to give you a discount if you say, well, it's going to be, we're going to sell tickets and we're going to collect all this money and we want you to give it to us free. I'm going to say, no way, Jose, you want a private event? That's a public property. And if you want to have a private event, go rent the Griswold. You can have your own private event. Go right ahead. But you're going to pay full price.
So I guess are we just gonna keep it as it is now, where we have a fee schedule? If somebody wants to petition council to waive that, is that the direction we are telling staff to go in, to continue to go in? And Peter, I would be willing to sit with you and create some sort of a form or a policy as far as
I
like
would
how to
be-
determine, council to sit here and determine whether or not.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
would
that's,
be entertaining that, but I would look at that, we would bring that up at our next strategic budget meeting, that we have this policy and we can work on it from now until then. But currently, there's no discounts without somebody actually just petitioning us. It's not just assumed.
Okay.
And if we want to make a policy, be happy to look at that and we'll adopt it for next year's budget.
rest of council, what are your, this half nod from Roger? Teresa?
I think the we use the fee schedule and they come before council, I guess. I just don't know how to be fair and consistent when they come to council is where I'm stuck at. Mhm. Yep. And then we get into, well, that's who you are, so you get it. You're like a nobody, so you don't get it, and you do this for the city, so we're gonna give you this, and then you get
Exactly.
into a
That's-
whole bunch of
That's
questions.
the difficulty with that, for sure.
Yep, yep. So I don't have an answer there, but we did vote on this fee schedule, so.
Tracy?
No, I agree. I mean, keep the fee schedule for now, but I think, like Peter said, it needs to be discussed in a strategic planning session, this upcoming one, and get some clear rules when applications are coming into the city staff.
Rachel, did you have anything to?
From here on out, we'll follow what the fee schedule says.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do, so that there isn't any kind of suggestion that if you don't like the price, you can come before council and get something else, depending upon what council thinks that week.
Okay. So it seems the consensus is to follow the fee schedule and petitions for
Thank
now.
you.
Okay. Thanks. And Peter, like I said, I would be happy to kind of come up with something if you have time before, we've got some time before strategic planning, but, because I'd like to have parameters to follow.
Policy.
Okay. So moving on. I know that Joel had sent us out later the finance report. We got that this afternoon. Did anybody have any questions or concerns about that? It wasn't on the agenda, but we did receive that in an email this afternoon. No, not right now. Okay. Okay. So if there are any, please go ahead and get a hold of Tracy if you have any concerns or questions. Next is a review of the council agenda. Did anyone see anything that required corrections, additions? Dave Redding will need to be excused from our regular meeting tonight. As you probably all saw, we do have a closed session towards the end of council, so we will need to do a motion and then a roll call vote to go into closed session. And then if anyone is interested in amending the agenda to include the Abonmarche proposal, we'll need to do that as well. So, okay. Next, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. It's 6:51. We will reconvene at 7 o'clock. It is 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the regular city council meeting to order. Joel, could we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Redding, Councilmember Hands,
Present.
Councilmember Byrd,
Here.
Councilmember Perigo,
Present?
Councilmember McKenzie,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Galloway,
Here.
Mayor Andrus.
Here.
You have a quorum.
And I make a motion to excuse Councilmember Dave Redding.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up, we have a Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Next, we have agenda item number 4, which is approval of our agenda. Under 4A, we have approval of the regular council meeting agenda for August 23rd, 2021.
Mayor Andrus, I'd like to make a motion to add something to add Abonmarche, to allow staff to contract Abonmarche to do the design work for our city streetscape. How's that?
For $278,000.
Not to
Not
exceed.
to
Not to
exceed.
exceed 278,000. Yes.
Okay, we do have a motion to amend tonight's agenda. Could I get a second, please?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, is there any discussion about that addition?
Whatever I said.
Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have agenda item 5, which is approval of minutes. Under 5A, we have an approval of the study session minutes from August 9th, 2021 council meeting. Were there any additions or corrections, council? I hadn't seen any. Joel, did you hear from anyone?
I did not hear.
Okay. So could I get a motion, please, to approve?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item 5B, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes from August 9th. Could I get a motion to approve, please, if there are no additions or corrections?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
Abstain.
Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item number 7, which is first reading of ordinances and scheduling of public hearings. We do have 3 separate public hearings we'll be scheduling tonight, but under 7A, we have a first reading and scheduling of a public hearing for September 27th regarding Ordinance 495, which is an amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding signage allowances for marijuana establishments. Staff?
Sure. This evening, City Council is being asked to accept for first reading and then schedule a public hearing and second reading for September 27th on Ordinance 495. You may recall when the ordinances were created that regulated marijuana establishments, we were very tight and restrictive on signage requirements or allowances. Most recently, you've amended the ordinance to allow freestanding signs. Upon discussion at the Planning Commission, they decided to strike the last restrictive part of that ordinance and more or less give all marijuana establishments the same signage requirements or allowances as any other business in their respective zone districts, except for we are still regulating content on the sign. It is the opinion of our city attorney and our planning consultant that since marijuana is not federally legal, that we can still regulate content on those type of signs, even though most signs, we don't regulate content. So what we are striking specifically, and this was in your report, was that section A that said a marijuana business may display no more than 2 separate signs, flyers, windows, decals, or other objects visible from and facing towards the exterior of the building are considered signs for purposes of this section. So by removing that, it just says they will be allowed to have signage per the zoning district they're in. Most of those are in C1 zoning districts.
Thank you, Joel. And as Joel mentioned, we did discuss this in planning and move to bring this up to council. So are there any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion, please? We are just getting a motion to schedule the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion, council? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 7B, which is a first reading and scheduling of a public hearing, again for September 27th, regarding an Ordinance 496, which is an amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding development requirements in the C1 Central Business District. And I know that we have discussed this at planning and did move to bring this forward. I think we've had a couple discussions here as well. Staff, did you have anything further?
No, nothing further.
Okay. Council, are there any questions at all about this? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported to schedule this public hearing on September 27th, 2021. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Under 7C, we have a first reading and scheduling of a public hearing for September 27th regarding Ordinance 497, which is an amendment to the zoning map to rezone 225 Green Street from M1 Manufacturing to R3 Multifamily Dwelling District. Joel?
All right, very quickly for council, we have a request from, and I forgot the gentleman's name already. Lonnie Lee, thank you very much. He is the owner of 225 Green Street. On the screen and in your report, it's that blue highlighted parcel. That is what I would call at the edge of Green Street, but Green Street right away kind of bends and curves to a single family just north of him. They would like to rezone it to to R3 so they could build a single family home or a duplex down the road. The parcel just south of this has been rezoned to R3 in recent years. The master plan calls for this to be residential zoning in this general area. Later on this evening, we're going to be talking about the parcel just to the west. So we're trying to create, some more residential uses up in this area.
Thank you, Joel. Council, were there any questions regarding this rezoning? Okay, then could I get a motion, please, to schedule a public hearing on September 27th?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have number 9, which is public comment, and this is a time for public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda. If there's any public comment, please come forward. I'm going to have you state your name and your address, please, sir.
Certainly.
My name is Scott Eric, and I live at 545 Lake Drive. My purpose coming here today, after the storms that we had a couple weeks ago, lots happened. I had a small problem, and I didn't know where to start, so you're the first ones I'm going to. I contacted the DPW, and they called me back the following day, but this was in regards to clearing downed brush, limbs, branches, you name it, out by the road. I do not personally have the capability to do anything. He's like, well, just stick it in the back of your car. I'm like, I have branches that are 10 feet long. I just can't stick it in the trunk of my car. Actually, I've got quite a pile. So anyhow, he's like, I'm like, do you have, any plans, especially after a big storm where it's blowing 50 to 70 miles an hour through our fair city, do you have any plans to go around with the chipper shredder and clean things up? And he's like, we only do it in the spring. I'm like, I don't exactly want to leave my pile of leaves for 8 months, till next April or May. So I kind of took it upon myself. I just drove around my immediate neighborhood and counted 26 additional properties that had branches, stuff out at the curb. Only one of them had a pickup truck in the yard. The other ones, you're probably, all cars. Some single families, some older folks without the capabilities to do so. And I was wondering, what do we have to do to actually initiate something where the city, the DPW, will actually go around, especially with fair coming up, but especially in circumstances with the storm like that, to have the city go around and just make a run around. I mean, I know it's going to take a while, but actually just clean up the piles out at the curb. It's kind of wanted your thoughts, and is this the place to go, or do I need to go elsewhere?
Well, this is definitely the place to go to make a public comment.
Perfect.
Yeah, typically as council, we're not going to be able to respond overly much to your public comment, but we have heard that and staff has heard that as well. So then they can address that further.
Okay.
Okay?
Now, I know there's, I mean, I don't want to put up specific addresses and stuff like that, because I know there's a forum where you can anonymously post stuff. But is the city going to look into that? I really don't want to post people's
It's okay for
addresses.
me to answer, I think.
Okay, go ahead, Joel.
So just a little bit of history. As most of you know, the cities do always pick up branches at the curb, Monday through Friday, 2 weeks a month. And I think it was late 17 or in 18, we abandoned that process. We went with our picking up in the springtime all the way up to Memorial Day weekend, I believe it is. And then we stop on that and we go do the other work that the DPW has to do. With the caveat, if there's a big storm, then city council can, authorize staff to go out and do it again. There was a storm, as as I know.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I
I,
well, maybe they'll come around, maybe they'll come around, and I asked on Facebook.
We did a drive around, and we did not see that much, blowing branches, limbs, and we went through lots of neighborhoods. Since that time, we have started to see lots of, branches raked out to the curb. And so this morning, we talked about as staff, and we're gonna go out, but I didn't hear anything from council, saying, hey, Joel, this is something we probably should be on right now, except for my regular call I get from a council member every week about, brush pickup. This is something for council to discuss, probably later on, how do you feel about the brush pickup? I will tell you right now, we have we're down 2 DPW workers right now, and we have 2 that we have in the cemetery mowing nonstop right now, because we lost a contractor that was responsible for that. So it's kind of like, where do you want to focus your attention? You mentioned the fair. That's what I mentioned this morning during the staff meeting council. And I said, let's just find a way to get staff out and doing that. And at the same time, we're having this discussion. Tracy Starr, finance director, is running the overtime reports, and we are above last year's overtime. And we are just 3 months or 2 months into our fiscal year. So we will get on the brush stuff. We're gonna go around. The only concern I have is people consistently, you can always rake stuff out to your curb.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then piles.
it's like
and that's
leaves
what we
in the fall,
noticed.
they just keep
Yeah.
coming.
When I came here in 17, that's one thing I noticed that first summer I was here. There was never a week there weren't 5 or 10 properties in each neighborhood with sticks out at the curb lawn. There's one on Marshall right now. They cut a tree down and they stacked the wood. This is for these are for branches that blow over. This is not for someone who cuts a tree down or uplimbs a tree for, landscaping purposes and expects the city to come and clean up their landscaping mess. So we're gonna go ahead and, get the chippers out, in the next week or two. Hopefully
Okay,
get it
yeah.
done before fair.
That would be great, because,
Yeah.
I've actually had, because I own a portion of woods, And I've actually found my neighbors dumping their stuff in my woods because they know the city wasn't going to pick it up. So I've got these piles building in my property, and I'll let them sit. I'm not gonna drag them to the curb, but
And then one thing we
Anyhow.
do, because we do get phone calls, and this is for council, we heavily encourage them, reach out to their neighbors, because, some people just aren't able-bodied. Reach out to your neighbors, reach out to the churches. I'm surprised there aren't more churches in this community that have aggressively taken this on as a ministry of theirs, to say, hey, here's the number you call. If you can't do it, we know people with pickup trucks, because we do have a free dump at the DPW garage 24/7, so.
yeah, and I use it pretty frequently, but, yeah, churches, yeah, I probably could. I know, pretty familiar with about 4 churches, and their attendance is down 25 to 40%. So you're doing the same amount of stuff with,
Yeah.
60% less people, or 40% less people, so.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Groovy.
So it does sound like staff is aware, and we will get those
Okay,
chippers out here
yeah.
within the next
Yeah,
week or two.
that would be wonderful, because,
Okay.
yeah, my other option is to buy a trailer and hire myself out. I don't know, but anyhow, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on down the agenda, we've got agenda item number 10, which is a written petition and report from special committees. Under 10A, we have a petition from the 5K Ugly Sweater Run to use the Riverfront Park. Joel?
Sure, very quickly, we received a request from the Ugly Sweater 5K Run to use the Riverfront Park and to use our electricity down there. I do not recall in the memo if they want the Riverfront Park blocked off at all, or is this still just going to be? Yeah,
I can definitely report. As I made mention at study session, I'm on this committee and actually submitted this for the committee on behalf of them, so we are not expecting to shut down Riverfront Plaza or not using the Riverfront stage. I tried to draw how we're gonna set up down there. Forgive my non-artistic abilities. And then we do have the race route as well that Joel's got up on the screen. So looking to use electricity for the timing as well. We usually have a DJ down there too. So, but no, we would not close the riverfront at all, but would need some city barriers or cones like they've done in previous years.
where would they need cones and barriers?
I think
at?
they put cones out like on the race route. They usually mark it with stuff on the ground, the committee. Yes.
Or whomever provides this stuff, you
Yeah,
guys go out
and then
do
they
the
go out
work.
and put everything down.
How many cones do they need?
I don't know offhand, Joel.
Okay. We have a few months to figure that out.
Yep. So if anyone has any questions, can let me know. I'm sorry no one else is here to report, but they're up north, so.
Is this a pay to register and run type event, or is this a free event?
No, it is a timed race event, so there is a registration. There's an early bird registration, and then this year, this is a nonprofit which gives all proceeds to usually a community nonprofit. We have donated to ARC before, Wounded Warriors, many different organizations. This year, we chose the Wings Home, and we will have a donation box, so if anyone brings a donation for the home, like pajamas or soap, food, we would offer them a discount as well. But then all proceeds do go to the Wings Home.
So if I'm understanding the application and our fee schedule correctly, traffic control, I'm assuming those would be the cones, and then I think it's $25 for electric use, so the total use fee, potentially, it could be $50, or would be $50. So I would make a motion to approve use of the Riverfront Plaza with electric and traffic cones for the Ugly Sweater 5K at $50.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion, council?
Is the, if I read correctly, isn't there requests that the fees be waived?
There was a request for fee waiver, but we do have a motion with support on the floor.
I find it consistent with our previous for J.C. Park and for the use of the stage previously to charge for the electric if we're gonna, I think we did at the other one as well, so. I think it sounds good to me. That's why I was asking if it was a charged, if there's fees for entry. If there wasn't fees for entry, then I would consider probably something else.
Okay, so we do have a motion with support. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And I abstain.
That was aye. You're aye. Aye, sorry.
The motion carries.
Just because I didn't do my little.
Okay, so next we have agenda item number 11, which is a reports from boards, commissions, and city offices. Under 11A.1, we have a report from the Planning Commission. So we just saw a couple things that came up from planning, all of the text ordinance amendments, as well as the rezoning of 225 Green. So we just discussed those and did recommend those up to council. And we also talked about a private hangar that will be going in at Pageant Field. Mr. Sosnowski was there, so discussed that. And that was pretty much it for planning. Unless, Joel, you had anything else? No?
I do not.
Okay. 11A.2, I have a report from Public Spaces Commission. Teresa?
Okay. We only had 5 people at our meeting, so that was kind of disappointing when we're trying to get stuff done, but it did come up from Corey Johnson suggested that we take a look at the gazebo in the Schaendorf parking lot and possibly put some swings in there, maybe do something different with that. With that being said, Joel let them know that street boardwalk behind there is not in good shape and needs to have some work done, needs to be looked at. So it's possibly an area that Public Spaces needs to take a look at, and along with staff, and come up with some ideas. The Cemetery Friends are looking for members. They're also getting some brickwork quotes for just the urns or the brickwork itself, the whole pillars and everything, right?
The whole pillars.
Yep. So they're looking at getting some quotes for that. I think Doug is on that. They brought up the trees over in Cutler Street parking lot that are, they said dying, and they were quickly corrected that they are under stress. So, Joel did let them know that the Second Street Bridge bids was rejected, and they're holding off until spring. Also talked about the state project on M89 and M40, what we're gonna do there, trying to come up with some ideas over there. Armatrout Nature Plat is gonna have like an open house, October 16th is when it's gonna preview. And next public space meeting, which will be September, second week in September, we're gonna do the trolley ride around to the parks. It's something that's apparently been done in the past, and last year with COVID, we didn't do it, but maybe get some ideas, maybe get some participation, so. That was about all.
Can I ask a question? With the nature preserve, was there any discussion on, with an open house, like, for parking in that?
Yes, Joel did bring that up with the narrow streets and told them that they could park right on Jackson in front of the Perigo resident.
Oh, that's what I figured.
Actually, I said they have a really nice front yard with
There
a
you
circle
go.
drive.
Okay, I
That
knew
was
there was
quick,
something about
Teresa.
it. Yeah,
You
Joel
can
did
see where
mention
my
it.
concern is, yes.
What-
Because I know on a Zoom meeting I had that other people were involved in, that was brought up by several people in that neighborhood, because the streets are narrow up there and there's no place to pull off.
Yeah, it's probably our narrowest streets we have in the city in that neighborhood. What Peter Savage mentioned was they were looking at having people park at the hospital, and they were gonna trolley them in, or caravan they, but we don't have much control over that.
Right. Okay, just wondered if it had been talked about.
Thanks, Tracy, and thanks, Teresa, for the report. Next, we have 11.8.3, which is a report from the Downtown Development Authority, which I will report on real quickly. It was a pretty quick meeting until the end when we started discussing the HTC. But before that, we went over the budget, which we hadn't really had any changes, and much like our other committees, we discussed the Second Street Bridge project and that it's going to go out for bid later, as well as the M40 and M89 project update. Many of the DDA members were adamant about having a roundabout, so. And then, like I said, we did talk about HDC, and that just kind of came up organically, but I just kind of informed them that we are aware of some of the issues, and there have been multiple discussions about how to move forward with that committee. They were not happy with the HDC, just to put it lightly, so. All right, Parker, did you have anything else, or? Okay, cool. Moving on down.
Curious.
Yep.
Regarding, just in reading the minutes here, because it shows that board members Heather and Liggett shared stronger opinions on the HDC and its purpose.
So it came up because Michelle was needing to get HDC approval for some signage.
That she did not submit an application on.
Okay, and then Parker had kind of explained usually the process for that.
So it was tabled, I believe, for our
I tried
next
my best.
meeting.
Correct.
But then that kind of jump-started the conversation about HDC in general. Mark Heather, as a Realtor, said he actually discourages people from buying in the district if possible.
And that his business is located in the district.
So,
Awesome.
yep.
Nonetheless, so I believe I was the one that made the motion to table that regarding the Liggett, so I just want to add some clarity there. There was no application submitted, so, I mean, that would be like you guys wanting the use of the Riverfront without an application, and no one in the audience to explain what they were applying for. So, that's why it was tabled.
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, 11B, Finance Department. We have 11B.1, which is a request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Teresa.
Okay, we have accounts payable in the amount of $144,527.72. Payroll in the amount of $108,424.19, for a total of $252,951.91. I make a motion to approve.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, is there any discussion about accounts payable and payroll? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11C, which is our police department, under 11C.1, an acceptance of a grant from the Gun Lake Tribe to secure a drone with thermal capabilities for the Allegan Police Department. Joel?
Yeah, very quickly, Officer Morgan went out and did some work on his own to identify a funding source and the type of drone that the city should grow into next. We already have a drone that's part of the city manager's office right now that the police department uses. However, this drone has infrared capabilities, so for search and rescue, this can pick up heat readings in a field, et cetera. So very, very thankful that Gun Lake has, selected us to receive this grant. Officer Morgan will be the primary user. So, any questions?
Go ahead, Peter. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I did. I meant Roger, but then I saw Peter put his hand up.
This specifically just for the police department's use, or is this for fire department, anybody else's use, or search and rescue?
Correct. So in the county of Allegan, and how wonderful and awesome it is, we have mutual aid agreements with all jurisdictions. So if someone is in Watson Township, we will deploy this and help
And
them as
will the
part of the
primary
mutual aid.
use be search and rescue, or is it gonna be used for search in general?
To be determined.
Because are we gonna be using it to search for heat signatures of marijuana grows? What are we doing with this thing? Well, I'm accepting grant, but I want,
You are.
we also set the policy, so
Well,
I wanna know
and
what the.
this evening, you're accepting the grant. I would offer that it will be deployed in appropriate and acceptable law enforcement practices.
A lot of that could be controversial, what's acceptable and what's not, so that's why I'm asking what our policy is gonna be on this, so we know. The second one on it is, how do they go about, because we're so close to the airport, we almost have nowhere to fly this thing without first putting in flight plans,
We
correct?
already have a drone.
Yeah, I know, but we have to put in flight plans whenever we
Well,
fly
I
so
would
close to the
imagine it's the
airport.
same as what we
So not
have.
flight plans, we need to make the airport manager
Manager
aware
aware.
when it's going up, and there's a limit to the height. So we've had an existing drone since 2017, when we purchased that one, mostly for community events to get better pictures. We've also used it for community planning. Josh Morgan, who is an officer for the City of Allegan, and on his spare time is a drone enthusiast. He introduced me to the drone racing leagues, went through the FAA licensing process, because you have to have an FAA, you have to have more or less a pilot's license to operate these. And so he's fully licensed through the FAA. He's fully aware of all the rules and regulations. And to the best of my knowledge, we've been using it appropriately.
So, the reason I bring up also the search, general search, is I find it kind of creepy if I could be in my house and people can see through the walls and see me without a warrant. It just isn't something that you would normally expect, that when you're in your home, you're expected privacy, you have the curtains closed, you're expected nobody can see what's going on in your home, and to say, well, it's used appropriately, setting a standard to say, I would prefer if you're gonna use it in a search, as in a criminal search, that we actually have a search warrant to do that, rather than just, well, it's acceptable currently, it's not against the law.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we have a drone policy already, but I would imagine that this would
Would be a police
fall
drone use policy.
under that. Roger, what were your questions, or did you have any?
Joel answered my question, so.
Okay. Did anyone else have any questions at all? No? Okay, then could I get a motion, please, to accept the grant from the Gun Lake Tribe?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, council, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11F, which is city manager and city clerk. Under 11F.1, we have a request to schedule a public hearing for September 27th per section 13-9 of the city charter to facilitate the sale of city-owned land on Low Street. To AESA. Joel.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor Andrus. Very quickly for this one, this evening, you're just scheduling the public hearing. We will have to notice this in the Allegan County News for 3 consecutive weeks. And then you will be holding the public hearing and making the decision on whether to sell the property or not at your next meeting, which I believe is September 27th. This is a parcel of land that unfortunately I just became aware that the city owns about 3 months ago. And then I said, well, why do we own this? Houses should go here. And then thinking things through and knowing that AESA is constantly looking for buildable lots for their building trades program, and going with some of the city's goals to develop housing, develop affordable housing, economic growth, growing a trade. I thought it would be appropriate to reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in securing this for a price that we generally sell to other nonprofits. And so they responded in the affirmative. We've begun the process of developing a purchase agreement for them. We've done the process of identifying our deed work. And this evening, you're being asked to schedule that public hearing. Council, you will recall I did email you before I went too far down this rabbit hole to see if there's any concerns, and no council member reached out to me with any concerns. So.
Thank you, Joel. Are there any questions of Joel? Go ahead, Peter.
Are we gonna put any restrictions in the sale that it actually be built on, or that they could just turn around and sell the lot privately without building on it?
Yes, we're gonna make sure we do that. I'm not sure if that's currently in the purchase
And
agreement.
then I see also there's a row adjacent to this, a right-of-way. do we want to, at that time of doing this, have that merged into and split between the properties there? Or do we have any plans to ever build a road there?
So we discussed that at the staff level. I'm holding off on us vacating that property until we have a better understanding of the development they're going to do. I mean, that could serve as a public street.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
That serves 3 or 4 or 5 properties.
considering the depth of the property, I know there's some swamp at the back.
Yeah.
Technically, having a road there would allow, instead of just one larger lot, because the frontage on it right now would probably only allow for one, but if you had a road there or a driveway, you could allow for maybe 2 or 3 lots, or 2 or 3 buildable structures.
And I don't know the practice here in Allegan, but in my previous role, we would approve flag lot developments. So it's not really a private or a public road that the city has to put in and maintain, but it could be just a long private driveway with, easements over that driveway that those 3 or 4 property owners, maintain. That might be appropriate in this area. Those are all things we're still trying to massage or figure out before we decide what to do with that paper street right now or right away.
Thank you. Did you have anything else, Peter?
Well, the only other thing is my wife works for AESA, so I don't know if I should abstain. She works actually at the VOTEC, so I don't want to have a conflict of interest, but
Yeah. Since your wife does receive a paycheck from them, my old attorneys would tell me, yes.
doesn't hurt to abstain at any point.
Does not hurt, if your family receives a paycheck from an
Hold
organization.
on, we have a Perigo who works at Perigo, who just voted on something at our last meeting, and has throughout her 4 years.
On.
As well as the chamber.
Anything.
Good point.
You can abstain.
I can
but there-
abstain. It's my
You have
choice.
no
I'm
financial
just-
gain, I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't have any financial gain in it or anything, but I just wanted full disclosure that,
All
yeah,
right,
my
Joel.
wife does work there, so
That's-
that
well,
is
what paragraph
on the
stuff has she
record.
voted on?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I am not aware of any paragraph. Only one IFT,
Roger, did you have any questions?
first meeting.
Ask away.
Is the idea that AESA they'll use these for their trades, they'll build these houses out and then sell them and use the profits for the school?
I
Is
can
that-
answer that. That's actually currently what they do. The building trades, they go out to a project house. So they come into the school, some stay in the classroom, the second-year students go to the project house,
Nice.
where they build the house, and then, they sell it. And then that helps
Support them.
offset, of course, all the construction cost.
Yeah.
And then they do it again, and they do it again. And the closer it is, of course, to the school, like this one is, because it's just around the corner, it will save a lot of transport time, I would think, because they're just gonna go right from there. And this is like 2 blocks away, so
Good,
I
that's
think it would be
great.
good for them.
Awesome.
I had mentioned to Joel, I thought this was a really great use of this property, so. All right, could we get a motion, please? And we are just scheduling the public hearing for September 27th.
So moved.
support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 11F.2 is a request to schedule a public hearing for September 27th. Holy cow, we're gonna have like 5 of them. To receive comment on a 425 agreement between the City of Allegan and Allegan Township.
All right, very quickly, this was something that was voted on back in 2017 with a previous city council. In the report and on the screen behind you is a map. The map is flipped sideways, so north is to the right of the screen to help you get your bearings. This is Industrial Drive through the industrial park. Perigo's large distribution center is just to the bottom of this road, and this is A37. So these 4 properties right here approached the city back in 15 or 14, before I came here, and said, hey, we want to purchase the land that we have been using for the past couple of decades, but it was city land. You can see cars being placed here, extensive landscaping being placed here, extensive landscaping here and here. So in 17, the city agreed to sell this, part of this lot to this property owner, this lot to this property owner, and so forth down the way. We then also agreed to, we then also approved a 425 agreement to adjust the corporate boundary lines of the city, so which is the solid red to this dashed purple line, as you can see here. We sent that all off to the township, because once the city approves it, then the township approves it. Nothing happened at the township level for the past 3.5 years, 4 years. This gentleman now would like to build a barn. I believe this is Willie Jenkins. The barn would traverse or bisect or go over our red corporate line. So his building permit got denied. And it ended up on my desk this summer, and I said, what are you talking about? We took care of this when I first showed up here, like in 17. We did all this work. And I go, well, the township never adopted their part of the 425. I reached out to our city attorney, and I said, is our resolution still good? He's like, oh, yeah. So we told the township, we did our stuff. You guys can just adopt it now, and you'll be good. Their township attorney said, no, we need the city to re-adopt it, so all the dates are within a couple months of each other, not a couple years of each other. So we're back at the drawing table. We do need you to schedule the public hearing, because we need to have the public hearing on the 425 agreement. Each of those 4 properties, the pink, blue, green, and orange shaded areas, will be transferred into the township. We have been receiving city taxes on those 4 small parcels for the past 3 years. So we haven't lost anything in that process from a city's, perspective or, standpoint. So we just need you to schedule a public hearing. Do you understand why we are here where we are now?
Thank you, Joel.
Can we reverse it and ask the township for a 425 to bring it into the city?
Good points. I would recommend with this one, we do not.
Okay,
But good points.
so if there are no further questions, could I get a motion, please, to schedule the public hearing on September 27th?
So moved.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 11F.3, we have a request to approve Resolution 21.25, which is a local governing body resolution for a charitable gaming license for the Congregational Kitchen of Allegan.
These are typical requests that the city of Allegan receives whenever a nonprofit wants to do a 50/50. They have to get approval by the state of Michigan, and the state of Michigan requires them to receive approval from the local unit of government first. And so the resolution you have seen multiple times in years past, so we just need you to adopt this resolution.
Thank you, Joel. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion, please, to approve Resolution 21.25?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11F.4, which is to adopt a proposal for professional services from Abonmarche for Brady Locust and Harbor Street reconstruction and streetscape project not to exceed $278,000.
We reviewed this during the study session. Abonmarche representatives are still in the audience. If council has any questions or further questions for them, staff's recommending that you approve this.
Thank you, Joel. We did speak about this quite a bit in study session. Were there any questions? Okay. Seeing none, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thanks for being here, gentlemen, and for all your hard work. Okay, next we have agenda item number 13, which is communications from city manager, council, and mayor. Joel, did you have anything for tonight?
Nothing at this moment.
Okay. Ryan or Parker, anything from you?
Nothing for me.
Tracy? No? Okay. Rachel, how about anything from you tonight?
Sure, just to add to Mr. Eric's, I guess, issue, we'll call it. I can't remember when the storms were, but on the city website, brush is not to be over 4 inches in diameter. So at a certain point, if you have large limbs that are over that, it's not the city's responsibility to come around and clean that stuff up. I mean, you either have to have the equipment to clean it up, or you hire somebody to do that. To me, that's what having a home is all about, is being able to clean up your yard after a storm. And then brush is just your leaf and twigs and that sort of stuff that falls randomly. But also, the website says that the city will announce after a storm or something, a special cleanup date. So I'm not aware that that's a council decision. I'm not saying that it is, or do we need to make it a council decision, but if there's larger, because M222 or Grand Street is starting to pile up with somebody who's cut down a tree, that sort of stuff. And I think people are forgetting that you don't pick up brush like we used to.
So for clarification, does it say after each storm, the city will make a decision, or?
Oh, you would ask me that.
Yeah, because I don't know. Oh, and with this one, it was simple. I called Doug the next day, and he goes, yeah, I'll drive around. I'm like, I'll drive around too. And we drove around. And you see, twigs with leaves on them still. A couple of the big trees that were in the right of way, we took care of,
Storm event pickup. The City of Allegan will announce special brush pickups after high wind storms on an as-needed basis.
Okay, so staff made a determination, it was not needed. But like we talked this morning at department heads, it just seems like over the past week, more stuff has been coming out. I mentioned one at Marshall where it looks like they're cutting down a tree.
I just don't want staff or DPW to get into the business of going around cleaning up trees rather than brush and twigs and limbs over 4 inches in diameter or 20 feet in length. I mean,
If they're over our ordinance, then that would be where code enforcement should be leaving some sort of notice on their door that we're not going to pick this up because it's, so maybe that's a reminder that we could do to the code enforcement. Do they know?
They do.
Okay, because, I mean, I know I have some stuff up in my neighborhood that's been there.
Yeah.
And I would think if they had been notified that it wouldn't still be there, but maybe they haven't been notified. I don't know.
Is the, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Is the reason that it is
What you're
a council decision because it's gonna create overtime? Because it just seems like that's something that you.
So I
and
wasn't
Doug-
clear on that, and I apologize. Staff made the decision not to do it. And I didn't hear from any of my bosses saying, Joel, this was an issue.
yeah.
You guys should get out on it. And since it was quiet coming from this board, I mean, there's always one or two people on this council that calls me and says, you should do X. I'm like, okay, get, a few more to get behind you and I'll do that, what you want done. But, there was not lots of discussion. I mean, there was a lot of preparation. I mean, the derecha, or whatever it was called, was gonna blow our city down.
Jericho?
Derico, is that the way you pronounce it?
They was trying to say Rachel.
I
No,
know.
But
Is it too
after
nutty?
the storm, it came through and then it was, it wasn't massive. People were not out, cleaning up their yards for days on.
Yeah.
And like they do in Iowa when these things blow through. That's why we just made a determination. It was not that big of a deal. But we do have a lot of people that have been dropping off. We do have a big community event coming up in 2 weeks. And we like to look, we want to put our best foot out, best foot forward.
I have one last comment based upon the public spaces meeting minutes regarding the Water Street gazebo, and I don't know the condition of it, or if you're talking the actual boardwalk, but if any kind of seating is going to be added, I think that's great. I don't think we should specify that it's for Shaindorf's folks. Shaindorf's been there since 2018 and hasn't added any seating
Oh,
in the
nobody
front.
said it was for Shane Dorf's
Actually, it is in
folks.
the minutes, it says Shane Dorf's. and
Oh.
Shane Dorf's sitting, and I saw that too, and I was gonna bring it up at the time and say, if they wanna put stuff out there, feel free to donate the
Oh,
furniture to the
I-
city, and we'll put it there as long as we like it.
Then that was
was
a
a- I think it was a
misprint
for
because it
instance,
was
but yeah,
not.
It's an example of it's for the people hanging out to go in. I understand that, but in the minutes it says for
Okay.
Shaindorf, so
It
I'm
should not
taking
have
it
said
literally.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
That was-
no. You could go sit in the swing if you would like, Rachel. Okay.
She wants a chandelier to swing from.
Maybe we could put a hammock out
wrecking
there
ball.
with your name on it, Rachel.
Tracy, did you have anything?
I do not.
Teresa?
No, thank you.
Roger?
With apologies to Rachel, I would like to put my thumbs up to the possible roundabout at, I know that she's gonna have trouble with that, but I think it's a great idea, as long as we've got the space to do it. I see poor Rachel just driving around. Parliament kids, Big Ben.
Peter?
Rachel took most of the comments I had on that. What I do to thumbs down on the roundabout, because there's not enough space in there to allow semis through it, it'll just be chaos. I've seen too many of them. I have no problem traversing them, done it in England in a stick shift on the wrong side of the car doing roundabouts, so I have no problem. I never did, hey, Big Ben, I just had the hard time of figuring out clutch shifting, but nothing else for today.
Okay, and I don't have anything for today either. So next up, we have number 14, which is closed session. 14A, request to go into closed session to discuss strategy negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of collective bargaining agreement per MCL section 15.268C. Could I get a motion, please, to enter into closed session at 7:51?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Joel, could we get a roll call, please?